Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Meeting the Ego. Here we have Tetcher today. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. It's a little earlier than I would normally be up, but otherwise I'm good.
Sorry to wake you up so early.
You good? You good?
Why don't you introduce yourself to some of the people who might not know who you are?
Well, hello. I am Chris or Tetcher. I am currently a commentator for Heroes of the Storm slash whatever else I get asked to do. I've commentated about 8 different games and 16 or something different sports throughout my career. Mostly just that. Mostly just commentary and content creation and hosting for different companies like Twitch and Blizzard and Ubisoft.
So how'd you get started in commentating?
So I was failing all my exams in school except drama. Excuse me. And I basically didn't have enough high grades to continue year 2 of what is basically college, sixth form in the UK. Because I was only passing drama, and they're like, "Well, you failed everything. Time to come up with a new life choice." And I was like, "Well, that sucks. Guess I'll do the one thing I'm good at and try and go to acting school." But by that point, it was too late. All the schools were full. So I took a year off and was like, "All right, I'm going to sign up for acting school and go next year." Instead, I watched a load of stuff on YouTube during that year off, and I saw a wonderful man known as the late great Total Biscuit, or Total Halibut, John Bain, as it were, who basically on the end of one of his videos, I think it was Terraria or something, where he was like, and if you like this content, then make sure you check out my StarCraft 2 channel. And I was like, what is StarCraft? And clicked over to that, and I saw commentary. And this was my first real exposure outside of Call of Duty to esports commentary, when there was a tiny bit in the Call of Duty stuff I watched with MLG. And I saw him doing that, and I was like, well, this looks brilliant. And then a couple weeks later, I could do that. So I went out and bought StarCraft at my local shop because I didn't know I had a very slow internet speed, so I didn't want to download anything. So I bought a physical copy, took it home, played it for about a week, and then messaged ESL UK, who had a StarCraft tournament going on, and was like, hey, I want to cast. And bless the guy who was running it at the time, Snorlax, he was like, yeah, sure, come cast. And am I allowed to swear on here?
I think so. If my editor doesn't like it, he can edit it out.
I was utter dog shite. Just completely terrible. I'd been playing the game a week. Terrible decision. But bless them, they let me go away. I played the game for a significantly longer time, and they still had me back, even after that absolutely dreadful performance. And they basically was like, yeah, sure, come back, do it again. And I did, and I was passable. And I just went from there, where I just kept pushing and improving, and went through StarCraft to Hearthstone to Heroes.
Okay. That's kind of inspiring, if you don't mind me saying. So when did you start playing Heroes of the Storm?
Technical alpha. Okay. I mean, if we're talking about being rude here, leaked alpha. Don't tell Blizzard. There was a leaked alpha of Heroes of the Storm, where before the technical alpha was even out, someone was able to get the files and put them up on a less than reputable site, where if you downloaded them along with a special tool that someone made, you could literally use a tool to select which heroes you would load into Cursed Hollow on. All your enemies would be random, but you'd get to choose from the 7 heroes it had pre-selected, and you could play versus the AI to get a feel for the game before it actually came out. But after that, I got invited into Tech Alpha.
If you don't mind me asking, what was appealing about the leaked alpha? Was it just that you're a big Blizzard fan, or were you planning on casting it from the start, or what's going on there?
100% planning on casting it from the start. I was casting StarCraft at the time, a while ago, before Heroes was even announced. And I just finished the biggest event that I'd ever done, which was Gfinity 3 or G3 at the Cup Box in London. Very good event. My first time meeting Caldor. But basically, I finished casting that, and I was like, wow, I don't like this game anymore. Like, I love watching it, but I don't like casting it. Guess it's time to go to school now because I just lost the passion. I'm not gonna lie, I just lost the passion. I wasn't enjoying casting it as much. So I was like, well, yes, it's time to go back to school. But I did an event for Barcraft in London for Meltdown Esports Bar. Went to go do an event for them as like a host, and it was for BlizzCon. And I'm there doing the stuff, and I'm chatting with people because they had a StarCraft tournament there, and I'm commentating that. And they showed the stuff on there. And then Heroes of the Storm is announced there. And I'm like, wait, I cast StarCraft for a job. I play League of Legends with my friends for fun. This seems like, and I play Hearthstone every now and again. This seems like both of those things. And I was like, well, guess we're going to commit to that. Time to cast something else until it comes out, which is why I cast Hearthstone. But I always knew the second I saw the game, I was like, I'm going to cast that.
Okay.
So the Tech Alpha was literally every little bit of information I can get about the game before it comes out gives me an edge up over other casters.
Was there kind of an arms race when the game came out for casters, or?
Yes.
Okay.
And there still is now. In any game you are in, casters, the majority of them are friends. But there are always limited paid positions. So every caster will do something or lots of things to try and get something that will make them a more appealing pick.
Okay, but we're not talking like Sabotage or anything.
Oh no, we had Sabotage.
Oh. Okay. Follow-up question. Would you recommend Sabotage for any casters out there?
No.
Okay.
Because there's a unwritten rule in casting that unfortunately some people don't seem to get, and that is your job isn't just to make the game sound good. Your job is to make your co-caster sound good. Even if you don't think they're doing as good a job as you would like, your job is to make them sound good, because one, it makes the broadcast sound nice. If you discredit your co-caster or try and override them, then people are not going to want to listen to that part of the cast. And two, if you don't make them look good, if you do make them look good, they're going to want to work with you again. But the same works the other way. If you mess with people, they're not going to want to work with you again.
Okay. So it pays to be a good person.
Yes, it really does. It really does. I've done my fair share of being a jerk accidentally, and I'm sure it's affected my career in a way or two. I've been a jerk on purpose when I think something has been unjust or done incorrectly, because I am very bad when it comes to a filter. If I think something's going wrong or something has been managed incorrectly, I will try to give feedback on that. But unfortunately, I am very bad when it comes to working out how to deal that constructively, as opposed to being like, well, that was terrible.
So if I'm thinking about other esports now, not so much in Heroes, but in like other esports, there's been times where like one caster says something that was, shall we say, in poor taste. As let's say you're working with Bob Saget, and Bob Saget is saying he makes a very off-color joke that's just horribly offensive. Do you call Bob Saget out, or do you move on? I imagine you move on, but
in the broadcast you move on,
okay.
Because it's not your job to put a halt to the broadcast. The broadcast always comes first.
Okay.
So you put a halt to it. If you want to go to the producers and the people behind the broadcast afterwards, or go to Bob and say, hey, that was uncool, then that's what you should do. You should always talk to the person. But if someone's saying something inappropriate in the workplace, you go talk to HR, or you go talk to management, which I have had to do to Blizzard. Had to talk to them, and it had zero effect because Blizzard.
Fair enough.
Someone used some very homophobic language at an event and proceeded to. Speaking of which, that person's still working very highly prominent in esports, and the person who laughed the hardest at it also still working highly prominent in esports. So hooray!
Yeah.
Always the way.
Well, that's a little depressing. Going
Exactly, which is why I can't. Those ones I can't name and shame because those ones still have the power to hire me.
Okay. So speaking of hiring you, what are your strengths as a caster? And why should people listen to your cast? And why should people hire you for casts?
Versatility, I think, is what I would say. I'm pretty solid as a play-by-play, and that's probably my biggest strength. But over time, in basically given any amount of... Sorry, just had to clear my brain there for a
No,
sec.
take your time.
Any amount of support and incentive into a game, and I'm going to be able to do my absolute best to learn it to an analytical level.
Okay. Sorry.
So yeah, I'd say just the ability that I can mostly fit into any role, especially a hosting role as well. Like you can just throw me on, and I can be an anchor for most broadcasts.
Okay. When going to other games, is it hard to learn the ability names, or as a play-by-play, would you recommend using ability names, or would you recommend using what's happening? So, for instance, if there's a Garrosh and he uses Wrecking Ball, not a lot of people know that's called. Is it? It's actually called Wrecking Ball. I don't even know. But the throw. Would you say Garrosh through Diva, or would you say, yeah, Garrosh used Wrecking Ball on Diva?
There's a balance that should be aimed for where you want to make sure that everything is clear for the audience. The best scenario in that case is to use both, not at the same time, but basically building that connection in the viewer's mind, because that is what you're trying to do as a commentator. You are trying to bring people all the information, and if you can teach them at the same time, that's brilliant. So say a Garrosh gets a throw of a Wrecking Ball, and you start off with what that really obviously is, and like, that's a really good throw by Garrosh. Murky is absolutely doomed. Murky is going to die. And that was a really good That's a really good Wrecking Ball. Was able to avoid the minions there to get that throw, and you can build the information that way.
Okay. So your strengths are casting mostly play-by-play. What about hosting? Would you say, how does hosting compare as opposed to casting?
Easier.
Okay.
It's still, you are the one who controls the broadcast, but the majority of the time, your job as a host is the most important one, and simultaneously the least important one, because all you are is the boatman. You are the one who is steering the boat. Everyone else is making sure the boat doesn't sink. That is it. Where basically you are the one just trying to make everyone else look amazing. As the host, the best skill is being able to just try and pick out who wants to talk, which you can communicate hand signals with, which is something we use a lot, to work out who wants to talk next, and just try and work out people's strengths and people's weaknesses, and try and give them the ability to show off their skills and their knowledge. And that's the host's job. Obviously, you make stuff sound exciting and you build up the matches, but it's the other talent on stage that makes something great. Unless, of course, you're talking about just standard stage MCing, in which case, just be hype. Make everything, what needs to be exciting sound exciting, and turn it into something people want to watch.
I have multiple questions off that. So for the hand signals, is that like just underneath the table?
On the table.
Oh, on the table.
They're just very simple here. So the people who want to speak will put one hand a little further forward with a finger out, and that is, I would like to speak next. Anytime the host is off camera, if they think you're talking too long, they'll just use a little finger swivel, is the best thing I can think of, which basically just means wrap it up, doing good. But basically, people will just put a finger out to say, hey, I want to talk next, and the host decides who gets it.
Okay, so not a hands up kind of.
No, they don't jazz hands to decide who gets to talk next.
I was thinking more like a school, like a high school kind of.
Sir, I want to talk about the Garrosh, sir.
Okay, so for hosting, I hear a lot of people, like when people ask casters, like how do I start casting? I know a lot of them say casting like amateur leagues and stuff, and thankfully in NGS we there's that for casters. For hosting, if someone wanted hosting practice and to get their name out as a good host, what should they do?
Host. There's no practice for hosting other than actually hosting. Like just trying to creating your own show is a good idea. If you have something like that, is a great way to practice hosting. But otherwise, it's really hard to show you could host, so, which is why a lot of times at events you will see hosts as being casters or streaming personalities, because you know they can perform in front of a camera, which is what you want.
Okay. So just get your name out there as a caster or personality in general.
Yes.
Okay.
Like if you want to be a host, just show you can do it. Like literally just get involved. Just do a show. If you can, just message people, because unfortunately one of the best ways to get into esports, which is something that I really hate doing, is to be very proactive when it comes to contacting potential employers, which is very annoying because I feel super rude doing it, but it is a really good way to get hired.
Yeah, I can relate to not necessarily feeling rude, but feeling very nervous, like just messaging you, asking if you want to do the interview. I had little butterflies in my stomach.
I don't bite, but I just cast heroes.
Fair enough. Going to the casting, what are your favorite kind of matches to cast?
There's not really a favorite type of match, because every match is different in its own unique and special way. I know that's a cop-out answer, but there truly is a difference between a match in front of a crowd and a match online. There is a true difference there. And especially when you're with a co-caster who you are in sync with and synergizing with. And also the environment again depends. Like some of my favorite matches I have ever cast haven't been in front of an audience. They have been Crucible matches. And I think that might just be a stake situation. So I think my favorite matches to cast are the ones with the highest stakes.
Okay. What about favorite heroes? Actually, scratch that question for now. What is your favorite match that you've ever casted?
Oh God, I don't know. That's a weird question. I mean, probably just the BlizzCon one. I know it's a cop-out answer, but it wasn't the most exciting game. It was the 1 versus Gen G, I think. It wasn't the most exciting game, but it was the fact of I have worked 7 years to get here, and I was just riding on that the entire time.
Okay.
That or Team Liquid versus Team Freedom at a Western Clash.
What was special about the Team Liquid versus Team Freedom?
More of the fact that for starters it was just a really good match, and second, again, the stakes. All the American teams were already out, so it was really interesting to see like the last hope of America come out and win the match. And even though I have the EU biased, it was really cool to take that story and bring it through and get the crowd reaction there and be like, yay, America! And inside I'm just like, oh, EU, good job we have all the other teams.
Did you flaunt it at all on cast that EU is better than NA in terms of results at that?
We always did. It's always good to flaunt your own region, where every caster is going to have a bias to their own region, and I was in a situation where I had 2 regions. So any international event, I'm there just having a lovely time because I got double the chances of winning and then proceeded to only win once. Which was a mid-season brawl where Fnatic won, and every other event, China and EU kept coming second or losing completely. So I was like, well, that's unfortunate. So but it was always good to flaunt that everyone flaunted their region a little bit, because that's what they're there for. You are the representative of your region here.
So would you say it's best to flaunt your region or your favor for a specific team, or should you appear more unbiased? To
a point.
Okay.
You gotta be able to you want to make people excited about every team. And a really good way to do that is to basically divide the teams up into the regions that people are from. If I wasn't there at some of those international events defending China, when it came to their teams at these international events, then no one would have done that for me, likely. Like, Gilly might have done a little bit, but the likelihood is everyone would have been just discount China at these events.
Okay, then that would have
And
rubbed
it was good to
Chinese
split the team
audiences
that way.
the
Well,
wrong
no,
way.
the Chinese audience are watching the Chinese broadcast.
Oh,
But in
okay.
this case, it would have been a situation of people aren't going to be as invested in the matches they're in.
Ah,
And the others are professionals. They likely would have picked it up as much, but it's much easier when you split the teams up into ways like that. But you don't want to go too far the other way by basically rolling in and saying, why are we caring about this? Korea's going to win anyway. You got to find the balance in there.
Sorry, I'm just imagining someone actually saying that. Okay, so again, going back to the cast, favorite hero to cast. Is there any favorite hero to cast?
No, nowadays Gaslow, because the Gravo Bomb is such a game-changing heroic that can turn a game on its head. Before reworked Gaslow, it was probably ETC for similar reasons, because you always get that fear. You always get that nervousness when teams are dueling, just like, how grouped up are they? Do they have the stuns off cooldown? Who's in position to interrupt if everyone else gets caught? How many people are close enough to that ETC to follow up? And you always have that something in the back of your mind of just like, is this game about to end just because of one ability? And that was always exciting.
So if you see a game and it's on one team, there's a Gaslow ended ETC, are you kind of losing your mind at the prospects of the gravel bomb into Mosh Pit?
The excitement's always there. I'm just a big wombo guy because they're the most fun things to cast. So you're always gonna be like, yes, let's go, let's get the wombo. And I had that. I had that in a recent NGS match where they literally all got caught in a VP black hole silence in tomb, and survived just long enough for Gaslow to drop the Gravo Bomb and ETC mosh pit everyone coming out of it, and they won the game with Eternal Feast from Orphea.
Oh my god.
It was sick. Absolutely amazing.
What do you remember the team names? So maybe the viewers can watch it.
Hang on, let me quickly jump to my YouTube and have a quick look. Because it was one of the recent games. I think it was from... Was it from last week or was it from the week before? I am not entirely sure. I don't remember off the top of my head. I think it was... My brain is telling me Regen Ghost versus Uncomfortably Numb. I'm just having a skim through that game. Maybe it was not that, because it was a Volskaya game and there is no Volskaya in this matchup. So it wasn't that one. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure.
Okay, well, if you find out, send me the link and we'll post in the description of the...
Shall do.
Okay, so what about your favorite map? Is it Volskaya, or what's your favorite map to cast?
Not Volskaya. Volskaya is an interesting map, but not the best. My favorite's, honestly, I'm an old-fashioned boy. I like Cursed.
Okay.
Cursed is my favorite map because it gives you a lot of macro potential, so you can be very strategic on there. If not, then Towers, because it's always the series ender, and that is cool. And it's one of those maps which you have a pretty good guarantee you're going to get to a late point.
Yeah. So, what are your least favorite kind of matches to cast? Is it just stomps with no wombo combo?
I mean, you can have a wombo combo and a stomp, and it be still pretty dull in theory, but excuse me, my least favorite types of matches to cast, it's probably really, really one-sided games are significantly less interesting to me. I could deal with a long game where nothing happens, but a short game where it's just like, well, this is over, is less fun to me. It feels anticlimactic as much. I try to make it as exciting as possible, but I like games to have a build up and a payoff. And if the game is just payoff, then it doesn't feel as satisfying to me as a caster.
That makes sense. So, I know you like to cast some other games as well as Heroes. What are they, and how does it differ from casting Heroes?
Very different in general. Excuse me. Each game has its own individual things that you need to work on. The StarCraft is almost all analysis. Like, yeah, you get play-by-play, but it's almost an hour-long game sometimes, and maybe 20 minutes of that is play-by-play, and all the rest is analysis, so it's a very different focus there. All the shooter games are a lot more play-by-play focused, so you focus more on what is happening in the moment. And then in the majority of shooter casts, if you've watched them, they spend any time that isn't done taking shots at other people, just chatting, which is really weird in like the Battle Royale games. I've not really come to understand that yet, which is why I've mostly just done solo casting for shooters, just trying to fit in some analysis to fill the time instead. But most of them are pretty similar. You're still going to get like the standard play-by-play analysis, or just play-by-play if it's a lot of something, or just a more analytical focused matchup. There are different. If you listen to different casts, you will hear different types of commentary, but the format is pretty much the same, unless people are literally just trying to create a different show where it's just chatting with esports.
Okay. As someone who's done cast professionally, even for HGC, are there any tips you have for newer casters?
Build up your co-caster.
Okay.
You succeed. The broadcast succeeds and fails based on based on both of you, of your casting as a duo, not just you. Make sure everyone is good, and also if they get met by someone or talk to someone, whose name are they going to recommend? The person who's absolutely blasting the cast but not being a good co-caster, so you know they might just talk over their co-caster, or the person who is a good team player and is working quite well. Otherwise, flow is very important. Knowing when to go hype and when not to, and how to flow from one into the other to basically give the appearance of a smooth transition, to basically build up speed and excitement into a moment where it's going to be super hype, and oh my god, the fight is about to begin, and the fight begins, and then the fight begins to end. That's a pretty good fight. We enjoyed that very much. We flow back down, and hey, Mr. Analysis, what did you think about that fight? Now hi, I'm Mr. Analysis, and I am now at the pace, instead of having to come out of a fight where I can talk about analysis, instead of having my co-caster start fast and then immediately cut down to this pace, which is a jarring transition.
Okay. Would you recommend casters in NGS, like newer casters, they co-cast a lot just to get that experience? Or is it a preference?
Some not. Some not. People get better in different ways. Some people are going to get better solo casting. Some people are going to get better duo casting.
Okay. How would someone know? Should they do like a mix of both, or?
Oh, definitely do a mix of both if you can. You gotta find what you have. You gotta find what you can. But there are a couple casters in NGS who I think are better suited to solo casting and might do best to, if they wanted to transition into duo casting, take a couple co-casting gigs. Whereas on the other side, there are people who mostly focus on duo casting and haven't had as much experience in solo casting. So it's a question of which one do you want to do. If you want to duo cast more, NDS doesn't pay anyone, so situation of whatever you want to do more of. If you're willing to transition into either, then sure, do both. But if you're just going to stick with solo casting, then you're not going to get a huge amount of value out of just duo casting.
Okay. A little bit of a topic change, but is there anything you'd like to see Blizzard do?
Gonna cop out and say bring back esports.
Okay, I mean that's not a cop out.
No. I mean, just on a similar note, the one thing I'd like Blizzard to start doing is to remember not who they're dealing with, but remember who we are, and why we love them. That's a simple one. We are the community, and not just for Heroes, for most of their games at this point, where we are a community built off of the feelings and the impressions and the heart that Blizzard put out and showed in all these years. And that impression has faded over the last few years. And I think there's a lot of work that would be needed to get back to that level of commitment and prestige, because the prestige has been buffeted out of Blizzard in the last few years. And I would like that back, quite frankly. I would like to be able to look at this and say, I am proud for all of the stuff that I have done with this company, and I am proud to play this game because this company has made me proud to do so.
Okay. Are you planning on casting? Actually, this is kind of a very weird question. I'm not sure if this even makes sense. Is there even casting for Diablo games? Because Diablo
games, no.
Okay, because Diablo 4 is going to come up, and I was going to ask, are you planning on casting Diablo 4? And then I realized that doesn't make too much sense.
Diablo's never really been my thing anyway. I'm very bad when it comes to keeping focus on games like that. But I don't think there's any esports in it. Jay, how will be the person to ask about that?
Okay. So what is the future for Tetcher, if you don't mind me asking?
Keep casting as much as possible. Eventually, and honestly, it's very sad to say, transitioning into a different game, because the people who are hiring for this game are a very insular club. And that makes it very hard to be able to afford a living. So either getting a real job, and again, all I'm qualified for really is acting, so that's not happening. So probably going to work at a supermarket. But yeah, probably just trying to transition into a different game to be able to afford to not starve.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. Is there any game in particular you're looking at, or?
There's a couple. I'm looking at Eternal Return. I'm Black Survival. I'm looking at Warzone. Looking at a little bit of Overwatch, just as a sort of part-time one, because someone was looking out for something like that. But I'm a freelance. I'm flexible. I will do whatever people put in front of me. If I just have like a week to 2 weeks, I can learn enough of the ability names. I think I'm passable.
Okay. When you're not casting and playing Heroes of the Storm, or I guess other games, what do you like to do for fun?
Dungeons and Dragons. Absolutely Dungeons and Dragons. It is my absolute favorite pastime in general, like more than playing Heroes, I'd say. I'm a creative mind. I like creating shows, which is why I've made load of shows for YouTube and stuff like that, which is how I got into Heroes in the first place, how I got invited to Tech Alpha, because one of the community managers liked my StarCraft show. But I love that creativity side. I like creating something, and D&D is just a constant stream of creativity, either someone else's or your own, that you all get a say in to create something dumb or marvelous. There was I think it was on like the D&D meme subreddit, which probably means it's from Tumblr or Twitter. But it was the DM can decide and write the heist. The players can decide whether the music is the Mission Impossible theme, the Pink Panther theme, or the Benny Hill theme. At least the players think they have control, except the answer is always the Benny Hill theme.
That's pretty good. Do you stream D&D, correct? I think Jinxie Cat said you did.
Mostly. We've had a little bit of scheduling issues recently, so we haven't done it in a while, but I do when we can.
Okay, and is it on your Twitch channel or?
It is usually Mondays at 7 p.m. UK time, but again, currently we've been a little sketch about the actual days we play.
Okay, is there anything you want to say to your fans, whether they be of your Heroes casting, casting of StarCraft, other games, or D&D?
It's a good question. Because there's so many things I would love to say to them, that I love them and thank you for supporting me when others didn't, when others haven't. Thank you for loving me for who I am, and I'd love you for who you are. Because there are some people who don't, and there are some people who see parts of me and they're like, well, we don't like that, and feel appropriate to use certain language around me. And I'm not okay with that. But all of them being so cool and so understanding and so loving and just so great in chat in general is always wonderful. And I like that. I love them for who they are, and I hope that they love them for who they are too, because they deserve it.
That's really sweet.
Thank you.
And for your newer fans, would you like to plug your socials, or like say where the people can find you on social media or content wise?
Sure. I am on Tetcher on YouTube. So Tetcher on YouTube, Tetcher on Twitch, Tetcher on Twitter. Chris Tetcher on Instagram, but don't go there. I don't post there. I'm really bad about posting there. I have a Discord that's in the description of my Twitch, so go check that out.
I'm gonna join that Discord immediately.
Nice. Thank you very much. It's dead sometimes, but stuff does get posted there from time to time. Yeah, follow me there if you like random ass comedy shows. Words are hard. Random comedy shows like the Heroes Global Quiz, sketch comedy, or just general productions like the Trial of HGC, which I did recently. I say recently, that was last year. Random challenges like beating Heroes AI with only voice commands, or trying to cast the most games simultaneously as possible. And otherwise, just D&D, a little bit of voice acting, and esports. Biggest bit is definitely esports, because casting is my passion, and which is why I want to just keep pursuing that as long as possible before I have to get a real job eventually.
Okay, and you're gonna send me the link over Discord, right? For all those later on, and then okay, so everyone will have them in the description if you want to just click links instead of having to manually type out Tetcher a bunch.
Tetcher. I know it's a weird spell name sometimes, so a lot of people forget the T because I'm bad at pronouncing it.
All right, well, thank you everyone for tuning in, and thank you very much, Tetcher, for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, buddy. This was really fun.
Yeah. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.